My name is Lou Zerfus, and today we're celebrating the 145th anniversary of the Battle of Ballast Point. I got into reenactment probably about 15, 16 years ago. I actually went to an event, the Brooksville Raid, which is the largest one in the Tampa Bay area. A few months later, I actually came across some reenactors doing a rehearsal, and they inquired if I would wish to join, and therefore I said yes, and from that day forward, I've been in reenacting.
Hi, I got in reenactment about 9 years ago by attending a reenactment. Had been a scoutmaster for a lot of years, and that was done, so I wanted something else, and this seemed to be the right thing.
All right, we're all Civil War reenactors. We've all been at it, most of us, a couple of years at least, and we're portraying the 97th Pennsylvania Volunteers, which was a regiment which was in Florida during the Civil War, stationed mostly around or north of Jacksonville in the Fort Clinch area.
Well, how I got into the reenacting was I've always had a healthy interest in the war between the states, and so I attended as a spectator and then got my rifle, joined up with a company, 5th Florida Company I, and started to portray the history and the battles.
In preparing for reenactments, there's a variety of things that we need to do. Training goes into various different steps. One of the steps is safety. Obviously, when you're firing weapons with black powder, even though there's no projectiles, there's plenty of muzzle blast and can do a lot of damage. Another thing that many people may not consider about reenacting and safety is taking a hit. When we're fired upon, a certain amount of us are required to go down and either take an injury or a death hit, in which we will fall down the ground. Well, just falling down can be a little bit more complicated, and on certain battlefields we have problems with red ants. You don't want to fall down into a pile of red ants, or it could be cactus, it could be stumps that were a palmetto that were cleared off the field. So there's a certain amount of things that we have to look for to make our hobby safe. Also, when the spectator's looking at a unit of reenactors, they need to look at something that's somewhat precise. So you need to know the commands. If a command is given for bifiles to the right, you better know how to do bifiles to the right, and when it's your turn to turn. Company in a line, we use all of the authentic Civil War commands, and so when you join a unit, that you have to make sure that you do know those commands to execute them properly.
Okay, everybody to be in the reenactment has to have the proper uniforms and weapons and gear. We all either buy or make our individual items. The weapons, like the rifles and bayonets, those are purchased. There's several settlers that make the uniforms themselves that you're able to get them made.
For a person starting out on reenacting, you just don't go up, put on a uniform, load up a musket, and go on a field. You actually have to be trained, and it's usually almost always by the unit that you join.
The fresh fish have been marked. Keep an eye on them. Do not let them hurt themselves.
I myself have witnessed a couple of accidents, people actually stepping into a hole and twisting their knee, getting hit with some particles of powder. I myself have been very lucky and safe that I've not had an accident like that.
We really haven't had any accidents. It's a relatively safe hobby as long as you're careful and you obey basic rules. We always inspect our weapons before we go out and use them. There have been health concerns due to heat and perhaps exhaustion. We did have a heart attack at one time. We've had some injuries. There's a cannon drill for the artillery. They're very careful about that, especially in a small field. And we're extremely careful about the use of bayonets and the muskets that we have.
Well, history, the way I feel about it is history is always important, because if we can keep and teach a history and keep it alive, then we can learn from the mistakes that were made and hopefully not to make them again. And it's always, you live in, not living in the past, but living by the past, that you can learn and hopefully help make a better future.